Having Fun Repairs. This is Sean. Video kind of serves as two purposes. One, make it do with the promise of replacing the screen on this Asus ROG Phone 3. This phone was mine, and I had it above a sink in a bathroom watching a video, not in a case. And it took a fall, not a very large fall, maybe just a couple inches from where it was propped up to where it fell down. And I think it hit this corner, or maybe it was I had it this way and hit this corner. I can't remember. The actual screen isn't broke or cracked. It's the screen underneath the glass that received damage. So we're going to replace this and then power it up and see if this replacement screen will work on it. And then two, second part of this video, I give you a little bit of a little message I want to give to everybody, but you'll have to wait to the end of the video to hear that message. Now, forgive me for my voice, a bit under the weather. It's been temps going here where we live. Have been swinging from 80s to low 50s, 40s even. And whenever there's a drastic change in temperature, I usually get pretty congested. That's neither here nor there. So, how do I tackle this thing? I suppose the first step we'll need to do is work on removing the back cover off, see what we can expose. Now, I'll be honest with you, I've been kind of dreading a little bit doing this screen replacement. Not because not because it's something outside of my wheelhouse, but when you're dealing with modern cell phones, there's always that level of risk that you kind of feel in your gut when taking something apart. Are you going to do more damage than good? And then secondly to that, parts are not cheap. I mean, the replacement screen alone, you know, this phone is still pretty expensive. The replacement screen was around $200 something. So I'm going to have to goose fraba for a second. And I suppose what we'll do is I'm going to heat up around the edge of this just slightly with my heat gun. Tip turned down pretty low. I don't want it super high. I do not want to melt any plastics in here. And then we'll work on trying to take the back cover off. So we've gotten the back cover off. If you didn't pick up on it, this right here is actually sitting underneath this module. So I'm hoping that I didn't cut any cables or anything underneath here by somehow wedging that underneath it. But it doesn't look like I've done any damage, at least with what I'm looking at right now. You can see the factory glue where it sits on here, where it comes across. That's something that we're going to have to replace. For that, got a package of B7000 epoxy used for watches and jewelry and stuff. So now it's going to be carefully dismantling components out of here, taking all the short little module specific components out. Camera, this guy right here, speaker module, etc. Whatever is here, battery too. We're going to start to remove those pieces. So I'm going to try to take pictures and notes as I go along, but that is our next step. off this piece, so I didn't realize that. I'm gonna grab some tweezers. Underneath the little sticker right here was another screw. So I was prying on it. I was like, man, wonder if there's a screw here. And there happened to be one. So I'm glad I caught that before I broke this piece, because it is very fragile. Alright, so I got the old screen out, and you might be able to tell now, like I said, it just got worse as I was prying on it. It started out up here, but you can kind of tell now as the cracks got bigger that it was the bottom layer of glass that was cracked in here. And then it started fracturing all throughout the screen as I was prying it up. A couple things that I've learned doing this. I tried to pry underneath the glass when really I should have been going at a flat level and then trying to slide underneath it. So I've got some minor cosmetics right here on the bezel, but nothing too serious. The one thing that is serious though, and man, I'm a bit upset about this, is there is an SMA connector, or whatever these are called, these small ones. See how there's a tiny one right here? I mean, this thing is microscopic. Oh look, right here, it's missing. And so is this one right there. And it's because when I was pulling up on this cable, they popped right off the board with the actual cable. I mean, you can still see it in there. So that is something I'm going to have to try to repair and get back on the board. Never mind all my kids in the living room playing around. But yeah, super tiny. Not really a good thing to happen, but it is what it is. So now I've got to solder these back onto the board. Well, unfortunately, as I was trying to take the little connectors out, they practically disintegrated. So I'm going to have to figure out something else. So obviously carrying a signal from one end to the other, there's a little bit of a trace left here that goes to, it's going to be hard for you to see, very, very, very tiny capacitor there. And then there's a trace over here that's still exposed on the board, up on that north side. I just don't know what it goes to. It looks like it might go through the board, to be honest. But you know, the outside connector is there for shielding. So the minimal thing I could do is cut the ends off of these connectors and just solder the center conductor to those trace points on both ends. That will give me something back on whatever that is, probably the antenna. So even if it ends up a complete failure, it is what it is. So I think it's time to unbox and put in the new screen. Okay, so the screen I bought isn't one that came with the bezel, so I had to take the bezel off of the old screen to put it onto here, which means that I have to bond that new bezel to this new screen before I put it in here, because I'm going to have to use the same bonding type glue to put the screen in. So now this has got to sit for a few hours. We'll let it cure as long as possible before we try to move it over. So I'll come back to this video after this is done, after the glue is done setting. All right, and through the magic of time, this guy has been glued up, leaving the protective film on for now, so after I get it installed. And then I want to show you something. Now I did this off camera because it's just incredibly hard to work on very microscopic components and traces. And I don't have a one of those fancy microscopes that allows me to record the work I'm doing at the same time. So I have to get super close to components with my eyeball. But anyways, I did end up getting this cable reattached. What I did is I stripped off the little super tiny connector, exposed the center conductor, the outer shield on both ends, and then had to carefully scrape back on the circuit board the trace, and then was able to get the center conductor soldered. I know that's probably going to be a bit hard for y'all to tell. Alright, let's see if I can get a good angle on this. Baby girl's asking mommy for something. But anyways, soldered the center conductor to the trace on the board right here. Yeah, I know it's going to be hard for y'all to see with this camera. And then the shielding to the ground pad over here. And on this side, center conductor for this cable, soldered it to this one end of that incredibly tiny, I think I said capacitor earlier, I believe this is a resistor. So black colored SMA component. Typically that's a resistor. Grays and browns will traditionally be capacitors. But anyways, center conductor to one leg of that SMA resistor, or SMD, surface mounted device. And then the shielding directly to the ground pins over on this side. And obviously this cable is ran a bit awkwardly, because however I could get it to stick, got it to stick. And so we'll just have to figure out what to do from there afterwards. I also need to find a way to cover these soldered points, so that way no damage will come back to them, hopefully. But I don't plan on being in this phone again once it's all together. Hey, baby girl. You want to say hi to everybody? The wire soldered back in, we'll begin reassembly. Got this together good enough to test. Battery's dead flat, but got a charger plugged in, and we got a flashing red LED right up here in the corner, which I think is a good sign, saying that the battery is charging from dead, probably too dead to turn on. But we'll let this sit here for a bit and charge, and then see if it turns on afterwards, and see if we got some touch and stuff like that, just a little bit of testing, and then we'll work on buttoning this up even better. Okay, during that little break, I went ahead and mixed up a 2-part epoxy to put over that RF cable that I solder on. Because it's black, I think it's potentially Wi-Fi. That might go to the Wi-Fi, but again, could also be the cell reception signal or NFC. Again, I don't know. Fingers crossed that works. But anyways, 2-part epoxy went down. Decided to get some, throw down some tape on this cable here, and then kept some tape on the this little cable that's plugged in here. During that time frame, though, the light went steady, so maybe it's time to power on and do a quick test. So it was at 3%. We got a screen. Looky there. Touch is working. All right. Let's see if it see if we can connect to some Wi-Fi for a second. Wi-Fi connected up just fine. Chimichangas. Both bands got on dual band 5G and 2.4, 5 gigahertz 2.4. They're both connected. You can see that with the 2 Wi-Fi signals up there at top. Obviously there's an update needed. I'm not too worried about that right now. Well, I'm going to say that this is good enough. to finish putting back together. So that's the next thing we're going to do. Forgot I didn't have any rubber bands. Probably not the best way to do this, but I don't have it over tight. Kept the screen on as I was tightening down on these clamps. But we'll let it sit for several hours and see what happens from there. With the glue somewhat set, I decided to insert my SIM from my other phone into here. As you can see, this is definitely registering the SIM, and it appears that we have decent signal. So I'm going to pop that back out. And I've placed it back into my other phone. Obviously this one's already registered on that account. And it appears that we have the same amount of bars, same data connection. So I feel like that is good as well. Factory reset on this. I want to make sure the air triggers still work. That squeeze is still there. That's good. Here's GPS is still working. It appears that Bluetooth is still working too. Decided to put pressure on this a bit differently. Second book. And then a handful of 10-pound plates. And that's how I'll leave it till tomorrow. That glue should be fully set by then. Get it cleaned up. And we'll work on closing out this video. Alrighty. Day has passed. And I think now we're just going to clean this up for a bit. All this excess glue that's on the sides. And yeah, that's the next step. You enjoy the removal of stuff. There you go. So I think it cleaned up pretty well. turn it on. And there we go. Alright. Of course, this guy would have to be set up for a thumb imprint since it's a reset. But everything seems to be in working order.
The get-go. So I think the next
Yep, video seems to be working fine, and audio as well. Flashlight's working good. Let's check the cameras. Alright, back camera. Zoom out. Zoom in. And what about forward-facing camera? That's all working fine as well. Cool. So with all that done, well, I guess the only thing that's left is talk about the message I wanted to give.
And it's one that comes with a deep sense of gratefulness. I mean, we have grown from 100 to over 500 in this past year. I've expanded on my Google site, information and schematics. You know, I think partly this is to do with the team up with my mate Vince with the Fixer series, which was phenomenal. We learned a bit more about schematics and developing our own circuits, and my kids have learned too in STEM videos over this past year, which was really fun for us to do, and plan to do more of them. We even included in modification videos, not just necessarily Fixer videos, and then we started to do series as well, because it just seemed easier to portray the type of things I wanted to portray to you over a series of videos instead of one long multi-hour video. But ultimately, I can say that I've had a lot of fun over the past year, and I really hope that you have too, and that you've enjoyed yourself on this channel.
Really, what I'm trying to say is, to put it simply, is thank you. Thank you for watching and subscribing and everything. I've enjoyed myself, and as I previously said, and you know, I really hope you have too. We'll continue to be here, at least doing one video a year, not a year, a month. I have a heavy workload between work and school, and then being a husband and a father, so I try to balance those things out as best as I possibly can. But anyways, from my family to yours, Happy New Year, and hopefully your 2022 is better and more enjoyable, and that you have your own success as well this year. Take care. Bye.